Damn it, no one's gonna be watching us now.
Is this came out like 2 weeks ago?
No, it didn't. Mm-mm.
This is fake. The hell is this?
Nope. This is real.
Kanye stands, yo. They're hard.
See that trailer for the new Venom trailer? Let there be carnage.
I saw it.
No.
I didn't finish it. I had to run out, but I wanted to see it. I wanted to see it. So
I just hope it's not corny.
They served 8 seconds of it made me say, "Let there be carnage."
The transformation looked dope. I just hope it's not.
Basket's ready. All right. Welcome to episode 23 of the E4Life podcast, your home for entrepreneurship, esports, education, and entertainment. I'm one of your hosts, Marcus Howard.
It's your boy Sebastian, chosen one Burton, back in the building.
Yeah, Master Geekers.
And Derek, aka Mr. Dope Work, is in the building. Marcus, what do we have today? Mic check, everybody. How we sounding this week? I know last time we were talking some good stuff and we had an echo going. So we had to shave some of that content. Let's not have that happen again because I want to talk my shit. I got Christopher with me out here. He is shit talker too. So, hey, let's run it, Marcus. What we got this week, man?
Man, we're just going to be talking about the ecosystem, talking on both sides of the coin about cannabis and esports. And there's really no person no better to talk about that than, Mr. Christopher Laporte himself from Reset.
Thank you.
Welcome, sir. Welcome.
It is a privilege. It is an honor. Thank you for having me, ladies and gentlemen. Happy belated birthday to Tamika. So, make sure everyone remembers that.
Appreciate you, bro.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday, cuz.
Thank you. Appreciate y'all.
Happy birthday. Oh, what? Everybody stopped because it's her birthday?
Nah, just hey. Matter of fact, we've missed her. Like she hasn't been here for a while, so I'm just ecstatic that she's back in the building. We had somebody talking trash last week that we don't have any inclusion, so we were like, hey, we do.
Yes.
We have a superstar.
I heard that there was some conflictions and on this is a diverse podcast. You do have a woman on as part as one of the hosts. So yeah, I'm gonna need y'all to fall back and make sure y'all tune into the previous episode so that doesn't happen again.
Good looking out, Red. Good looking out. Because I don't know those big words you're using, confliction, but he was not pleased. So I can tell you that part. But thank you for clearing it up. And we're glad to have you back. Thank you so much. So
Very much.
So
hold on. Before we move on, let me ask. I love diversity.
okay.
Red, how many females or women do we need to have on here to make it where it's equal?
I will say we do need some more guests.
Okay.
From women in the, different industries, guests to bring on. So
That's a call for you.
Hello. This is you guys. It's all
So
you.
if y'all are interested in being on E4Life podcast and y'all have some gems to drop, not any nonsense, nothing commercial, not that you trying to sell something all the goddamn time, but actually giving something back, then we would love to have you on here for sure. Yes, let's get some ladies on here that's doing their thing in different industries for sure. That can
And
intertwine with esports and everything.
Since I've been such a big fan of Evil Geniuses, Nicole Lapointe Jameson, where you at?
Yes, Nicole.
Oh.
Let's get you on here, Nicole. Let's get you on.
Chris, you wanted to talk about more grassroots stuff, which I'm always down to talk about because that gets lost in all the news that's being reported now in the industry, and it is some of the most important work that will be done, right, and can be done. So I know you've definitely been trying to reset Vegas for a little second and a half. So what's that like, and what's the biggest esports temperature like today, right now?
And again, thanks for having me on here today. The reality is, I'm going to give you a little bit of a long story short, but it's probably going to be a little bit long. In that, moved out to Vegas in 2005. and my life has always been in the arcade scene. And so I come to Vegas in 2005, and I've been following the FGC, and okay, Evo is for the very first time in Las Vegas. I have now been to Evo every single year as either a competitor or as a fan, and watching that grow from a grassroots perspective and seeing, it's had its challenges over the past couple of years, but there's lots of reasons for it. Not going to point a finger at any one thing, but the reality is there still is nothing like Evo in Las Vegas, right? Where you truly have 10,000 fans hitting a, arena in Las Vegas. But when we first started doing these things, and there are people like, what are these people doing carrying these arcade sticks? Who are all these little kids? What is this? And now 2021, the announcement that Evo is coming back to Vegas, people in the industry, as in the casino industry, are excited that they're coming back, because there has been a lot of esports events in Las Vegas that have been absolutely fucking lackluster. And it's a lot of pomp and circumstance. It's a lot of show. And I keep telling everyone, the reason why is because when you look at Evo and the FGC and you look at some of these other esports communities, that word is important, community. And we've seen this very grassroots play where the city of Las Vegas has embraced the FGC, and it continues to percolate. But if I talk about H1Z1, that's a whole nother story, right? If you all remember what happened there, and if you don't, it's not much to really talk about because there wasn't much that was happening there. We had DreamHack Las Vegas, didn't do very well either. We had Gears of War, we had Rocket League, and they did all right. And so, right now, I'll be honest with you, I'm a little concerned about the health of esports in Las Vegas, because it just hasn't quite hit the mainstream that a lot of people who speak on podcasts and get those articles and all these esports journalists' Twitter handles, it is so big. And I always just want to remind people, soccer is really big globally too, but it doesn't really mean shit to me. And it's just not an American thing per se. So we have a little bit of work that we still have to do. I think that we're in kind of a correction stage, which I'm excited about. And, Vegas is a very unique market, and it's just a matter of working from a grassroots perspective again. It's just keeping it right back to what got us this far to begin with. And it's just grassroots organization.
Yeah, I agree. I come from the FGC, so I know exactly what you're talking about. And, I think that grassroots is always going to be key, right? Because it starts with the players. And I think the power is always going to be with the players. GameStop tried to use that as a slogan, and they didn't use it right.
Power to the players.
Well, and I'll point my finger at the VCs now, because, it was like 10 years ago, a lot of money coming into this thing, and I'll always, a lot of respect to guys like Hector and Nate Shot, because those guys have been in the game for a long time, and they've grown and continue to. Those are the stories, right? Because we know the people, we know the personalities, we know the community. Yeah. And time again, I'm seeing these events in Las Vegas that say esports. I'm like, who are you? And that's not interesting, right? I look at I like to talk in circles. So please, if there's a button to touch that isn't hooray, but just wrap it up, throw it at me. But basketball was invented in 1891. The NBA comes out in 1949, right? That's a 60-year gap. Why are we suddenly thinking that a video game comes out and there should be an esport like that, and there should be a crowd like that? Things have to grow, and things have to be truly culturally fit, because I always look at the NBA as a perfect comparison to esports, in that I'm a New York Knicks fan, right? The 90s was the greatest era of basketball history, and that's just my perspective. I'm not trying to offend anybody. But after Michael Jordan went away, right? What happened to the NBA? It lost popularity. Then all the suits came in. They started adding rules. Allen Iverson, you got to wear a suit. And suddenly it lost its flavor, it lost its culture, and it starts to even further lose its appeal. Esports has still yet to find a way to make it appealing by way of their players. The FGC has done it, right? We know all these names because we were part of it. But I can always sell this. I remember actually, it was when I had Insert Coins, my video game bar years ago. I put Marin in front of ESPN, yo, this dude is a trip. You got to really work with this guy. He's a character. And as long as we continue to find ways to do less of, hey, esports guy, look like this, and just more show me who you are as a person, I think we can see esports grow a little bit faster. But right now, we've just really hit some kind of bump in the road.
Yeah, it's no investments in the players. No. I was just speaking about this earlier, there's no marketing vehicles behind players or personalities or whatever the case may be. And because of that, it's just like what you mentioned with the NBA, because the NBA was losing its popularity, and that's why they had the whole Magic Johnson versus Larry Bird type of situation on the whole marketing front. And then a savior came along, which was Michael Jordan after that. So it brought more and more attention to the NBA. And like you said, afterwards, it went away. It's the same thing like with esports. They was like, oh, Ninja, savior. Ooh, Drake came into par, savior. But that's because it was a marketing vehicle behind that whole situation to begin with, for it to even come into fruition. It's not like something just organically came about. It was planned. So, but moving forward, there's nothing with a person or personalities that's really being invested in. There's no management, there's no marketing agencies towards the industry at all. We just see people from other industries coming in and saying, oh, esports is a buzzword in Fortnite and wow, and thinking that, oh, this industry could move the same way that other industries can, and it can't because it's still pretty much in its infancy. We're nowhere near to any other infrastructure of any other type of sport, period. But each one that keeps getting built every day, there's nothing being built infrastructure wise with even one game at least. Like one scene at least is not even getting it. And like you said, it's not, we see other countries like the region of Asia that really took it serious and put the government towards it, put money towards everything, even put institutions behind it to make it a sound industry. We don't have that.
So I will 100% concur with everything, but the one thing I really want people to start trying to like collectively think about is, for a very long time I believed in normalization, but the reality is normalization is going to take way too long because it's just a generational thing. And I always talk about this from the betting world. So I'm in the betting world, I'm in the cannabis world, I'm in Vegas, it's all kinds of things. But I like to use the term approachability a lot now. Like, how can I make esports approachable? We made esports approachable without an esport, right? Like to your point about Fortnite and Ninja and Drake. That wasn't esports, but you know what? We got to make some money, so we're going to call it esports, and away it goes, right?
Yep.
But I will tip my hat again to the 100 Thieves, whether, we can laugh at their hoodies and all the other stuff that they, do. But what they did that was fascinating to me was they did take that non-esports world, right, where you got your Valkyries and all these other characters that did help to grow their brand. And that's smart, and I think we need to see more of, I'm 44 years old. I do get into the crotchety old man boomer bullshit where I'm like, this isn't really about competition. But you know what? When your audience is 11 through 18 for the most part, right? I mean, it's a very young audience today from a North American standard. It's got to be a little more entertainment. It's got to be a little more music components. It's got to be a little bit more, just personality driven. And if esports is a little more like the WWE, there might be someone from out the gates who has no idea what esports is, like, oh, this is interesting, let me give it a shot.
I agree with that. I just also think that it's very important.
Damn it, Sebastian.
I think that it's very, very important that like people take the idea that this is video games. It's not traditional sports. So it comes down to something first, and that's the genres. It's always gonna come down to the genres. Different people play different genres of games. You have to segment the audience different. People who like basketball can generally fall into a funnel of the NBA. It's the highest form of basketball. People who like the dunks, people who like the actual science, people who like the coaching, people who like the athletics, people who like the jerseys, people who like the cheerleaders. There's one product to serve all. There is not one product to serve everybody who doesn't like to play Call of Duty.
Correct.
There's not one product to serve everybody who does not ever remember sitting through a full 45 minutes of League of Legends. There is not one product to serve these, different municipalities of people. So the first successful major esports event that I think people should be thinking towards on a grassroots level, Evo is a great example because it drew so much of an audience, right?
Yeah.
That's a great example. But what happens is the things that we saw go down at Evo, and if you aren't familiar, everybody, was things bad as like people finding things in their drinks and all types of illicit behavior. It's because there's no regulation, right? So it needs to be a happy medium between something that's regulated and something that's open to the public. Because Evo is open to the public, right? Every year they just announce you can just come to this. So as far and wide, you can come to this, right? I think having some sort of regulation on that, qualifiers, whatever, will keep people who are, truly interested and healthy and build an audience than like letting any people come in. You see what happened with Evo, right? Like many types of people come into venues. There needs to be some kind of qualifications for, as far as talent, for entering a tournament. Because if I play a fighting game, right? I'm gonna use Evo as an example. If I play a fighting game, okay, and I'm going to compete with the best players in the world, all right, and the day of, somebody who doesn't even play the game just decides, hey, I'm here, I'm at the Win, or I'm at the, LVC or whatever.
MGM.
Every year they change, right?
Yeah, it's always different.
Mandalay Bay. I'm going to enter today, right? I'm going to enter today. I've never played. What is this? This is Street Fighter? Cool.
Right.
I'm going to enter today. And you have people who play it seriously and are competing for real cash and a real career and real. How serious could it be if someone could just enter like that? They call Evo the Olympics of fighting games. The Olympics. The Olympics. I don't see Simone Biles at Evo. Any guy can walk into, any guy or girl can walk into.
Do you think that's
Evo.
bad, or do you think
I'm chomping at the bit on this one.
Please.
All right, let's go. Now we got a conversation.
Because Evo ended up where it's at. So please tell me. Because I feel like
I can understand the premise behind it. I can understand the premise behind it, but I feel like automatically setting yourself up for gatekeepers, and sports already has a bunch of people that like to play gatekeepers because of their status and whatever they're at. So now you're going to say that I need a qualifier. You're creating another layer of division of somebody to experience it. If you're that good and you put a lot of time and energy and money into getting good at this game, those people that jump up and say, hey, you know what, I'm going to be in here and have fun since I'm here. You should be smashing them. Like we shouldn't feel sorry that you have to play them.
I mean, there's always been qualifiers.
Unless you're a fluke.
But there's always been qualifiers to go to Evo. It's just that it wasn't structured in a certain way where it was inclusive to like the whole region. Like I'm talking about the entire country, to say, okay, this country has this state has this qualified, this state has, like, it wasn't like that. Right. So some people had to drive to certain regions to go to certain tournaments in order to compete. So they was able to have an amateur sub amateur to professional level. So they could play some casual, see if they could test the waters a little bit. If they want to take it to the next step and see if they could be in a qualifier to get top 8 or anything of that nature. And then get one of those qualifying tickets to move on to Evo. So there is some type of structure.
Yeah, it's called golf.
So it is.
No, for real, it's called golf. You know what I'm saying? Like, we want to talk about esports as sports, right? Great. FGC is golf. Anyone want to put some time and energy into buying their, hitbox? That's like me going out to buy a new driver. And then the more I play and the more of an opportunity I get to play in the local tournaments. And then, you know what? If I play well enough, I can get my PGA Tour card. Like, there's a pathway to success.
Yeah, it is a pathway.
You know what I'm saying? And what I really want to kind of chime in on is from regulations. So a little bit about reset, right? We've been working very closely with the Nevada Esports Alliance. We work very closely with casino owners and sportsbook people. And this past year, we were working very closely with the state government, and we were looking to put together an esports commission. And without getting too into the just the weeds of it all, there's a lot of pushback from the publishers. There's a lot of pushback from all these people in the esports world. And I was like, yo, do you want it or not? And this is where I keep coming back to, like, we are moving this industry way too fast. We are over-promising and under-delivering on the regular because we're just not there yet. We're not mainstream enough yet to start. I mean, I see more organization in my kid's flag football league. You know what I mean? He's 11. And I was like, okay, these guys got it all figured out. And in esport, every single game has got a whole nother this, that, and the third. And then when we, as a government organization, was like, hey, we can help you do this. We can work with ESIC and start eliminating the problems with cheating and match fixing, and we can do drug testing and all this other stuff. I was like, wait, why are we moving that fast? Like, well, because you put in $20 million into an Overwatch league. Don't you want these things?
Exactly.
So, like, this is why I'm so excited to be here, because I know we can all have this conversation, like, as for really real, where it's like, What do we want to be? And do we want to keep pointing fingers and looking at everyone else like, do this, do that? Man, fuck that. No, let's just ourselves start figuring out how can we work on a local level? How can we start reaching out to these people who really want to do the thing, but also figure something out where it's revenue generating? Because too much of esports right now is just sponsorships and charity events, and that's all it is. So, I'm 44. I probably will mention this several times. My generation, when you're a gamer, you might have gotten into a couple of fights and on the receiving end of an ass whooping. I have an 11-year-old son where he's a superstar. He went back to school and they're like, oh, yo, so-and-so, like, we got to play this, that, and the third. So, like, that generation is going to come up to be something really big, but we now have a solid 10 years. How are we going to start making esports profitable today? How are we going to start making esports relevant, not to just, hey, here's my esports team, give me this much money, and you're going to get a bunch of look-sees on my Twitter account or my Instagram. I don't give a shit. That social media reach translates to very little in the real world. And we're seeing it time and time again, especially here in Las Vegas. So, again, not to which I just did, but like, there's a lot of problems, but I don't hear enough solutions because everyone's too busy saying it's mine. And we got to let go of this ego. We got to let go of all these promises of esports being a thing. It just isn't.
Yeah, I think it's a good point you're making, because obviously with something like the Overwatch League, that's created because that was the first title that I can really remember that was created by the company to become an esport, right? Like, that literally was created. They were like, this is going to be our esports game. So watching that unfold over the last 4 or 5 years, the governing of it, obviously the finances of it, and the play of it versus, play you can find anywhere. The most money that was made was like in the licensing deals. So knowing that, like, okay, 90 million from Twitch, that's a big number, but now all the sponsors are leaving. So the product itself, the actual what you watch on the Overwatch League, isn't becoming a commodity, right? Like, that's what's happening. People are leaving things, players want to go stream instead. And I think that right there is the root I see in the current structure of esports, is that it pays more to be an entertainer than a player. It just does.
Right.
And that's not
There's
the
no
case.
ecosystem with it.
That's not the case in any sport. Like, like, Messi is not funny, but Messi demands $25 million per year for his services. You see what I'm saying? And as far as I'm concerned, soccer is the biggest sport on the earth. So looking just decently after that, you have to put who in what genre is the, who's bringing in the most. Like, clearly in fighting games, it's got to be Sonic Fox, right? Like, it's got to be the most, like, winning, but attention because of how much winning that we see. I can't really tell in a lot of other genres except MOBA. It's very crystal clear to me in MOBA, right? Like, TSM, their players, a lot of those guys become owners of the teams, things like that. But it's not really clear to me, like, it's not really crystal clear to me who's the best in the world at NBA 2K. It's not really it's not super clear to me, right? Like, I understand somebody's the best, but it's not like I turn the team. Like, I understand if you say LeBron, what that means.
But again, what I'm gonna jump in on, but why should I care who's the best at NBA 2K? Because the reality is, it's not a big enough market today where, again, I'd rather watch, I'm gonna be old again, like some old school Charles Oakley, whatever they did back in the day, versus the kid with the controller. It's just the reality. When I go to a bar and I go to any setting outside of our bubble of esports, I say, hey, yo, who's your favorite esports team? What are you talking about? Who's your favorite esports player? What are you talking about? Ninja. So again,
I agree.
But what I'm saying is, like, when we look at the FGC, it's a small percentage of the video game infrastructure, period, right? It's only less than 10% of the FGC genre is actually sales, right? Number one game was Mortal Kombat. Okay, cool. Mortal Kombat made a movie. How many people were watching Evo? Just about the same as it is every year, even though it had the movie behind it, even though it had, all that push behind it. Then I look at sports gaming. Yeah, everyone watches sports, but do I want to watch video game sports? Probably not. But, that became an esport. Why? Because VC money came in and said, we're going to make this thing because it talks to the youth. It was about nothing else. It was just about, this is how we talk to other people. When I see FaZe Clan's, cover, and I think everyone's talked about this, who are those people on there that were esports athletes? None of them. Problem again. Why? Because that's what the American audiences are still looking for. We are really trying to push this square peg in a circle right now on some like, this is why this is important. We have a cultural problem. It is nothing more than that right now. We have to figure out how to fix that.
Yeah.
I have those answers.
Fix that by getting the investor dollars out of it?
Pardon?
Are the investor dollars part of the problem or part of the solution?
I think it's part of the problem 50% of the time. And I don't want you to sound wishy-washy here, but at the end of the day, without that money, we would not be where we are today. So let's just like tip the hat. Thanks for taking the risk. Sorry you made a big mistake. Some of us told you to be careful. But, in the world today, especially I've been working now in this, VC space for almost 5 years, right? And unless you can promise, basically I can create a brand new world, NFTs, whatever, it's really hard to get that, VC space when you say to them, hey, look, it's only going to grow this much realistically. No one wants to hear that. I'm in the corner saying, hey, esports betting, it's really not that big. Don't say that because we just got these 5 companies to get money for esports betting. Like, all right, cool, but you're not going to make any money. Sorry to tell you, but at least it gives us an opportunity, people in this room, people watching today, to say, okay, look, but we're the real ones. We're the ones who are in this thing every day. How do we make a difference? It's about talking to people outside our world. We don't do that enough. We're too busy talking amongst ourselves. We're not talking outside of it. And when we do, we don't have a good enough story to sell, right? Because the last time the mainstream paid attention to esports is when a 16-year-old kid won a Fortnite tournament, right? I mean, the Booga kid was on a major TV show. When's the last time an esports thing happened on TV since then? Nothing. But we got Jimmy Fallon talking about Nintendo every year. All right, bet. Let's figure out how we can intersect that world. There's a lot of really cool ways. I know we're going to see this happen in the next 5 years, but I think it's a culture problem more than anything else. And we can get into the nitty gritty of all the things that are wrong. We got to find a way to sell this to people outside of our world. And that's weed. But that's later.
Speaking on that, James O'Hagan, go ahead, Derek.
So at the same time, is there any comparison to, we talk about esports having a diversity and inclusion issue. So if you say the majority is what it is, and that majority is struggling to get the buy-in, because we know that's what brings the cool, right? Like that's what made the NBA cool, the personalities of diversity that were within that. So therefore, is that the solution? Could that easily be the solution? Like if we get more inclusion, which is more personality with the grassroots, like we should be swinging for the fences by then, or no?
So no, here's why I believe that is the case, right? Again, I'm looking at things from sell me esports to somebody else. And you hit the nail on the head. Like, who can be the cool person? And like I said, it ain't these cats in their Velcro, whatever, vinyl shirts doing this thing. I'm already out the door. I don't want to see that. But, I did like when I saw some more streetwear come out that was like kind of esports specific, right? But then they're like, you know what? Fuck it. We're going Louis Vuitton. No. Can't afford Louis Vuitton. What are you talking about? Right. Give me some staple, right? Or give me some, just something that's affordable and that reaches the audience. But all of a sudden we're rocking, Gucci. Like, stop. But like, I look at Mega Ran. I don't know if you know this cat. He's this hip hop artist who
great fan. Yes.
Cool. Yeah. Great. Good shit. So like when I see that, right, like there's a dude who's loving music, who's loving video games, and he's intersecting the two worlds. And you know what? Most people jump in because, all right, his new album is touching Final Fantasy. Okay, cool, whatever. But now when you start to have someone like that start talking about, hey, check this out. These people play competitively. There are people who are doing this thing. Don't talk about how much money they make. Don't talk about what the league is and all the other problems that we love to do on Twitter. Hey, esports, this is your fault. Stop going on Twitter, throwing all the drama out. Cut it out. We got to start selling the beauty of this culture and community. And I do think, when there are people that are outside of esports to sell, people do this competitively. They're having fun. We used to do that, right? The esports FGC, we were having fun. We were talking shit at the arcade cabinets, right? Like it was all this stuff that we were doing and created to make it a much more palpable product that I want to be a part of. Everyone in the FGC wishes they went to the Chinatown Fair. Everyone.
Yes.
Right. And now, like it's, and Derek, to answer your question a little more, fulfilling, because I do tend to do this a lot. When I see, artists, and I keep going back to music entertainment because it's such an important part of who we are. Right? Before we even turn the cameras on, I was talking about the Nas album, right? Because like that's what brings people together. Every time there's a song, and I'll go back. We were talking about Eminem too. By the way, not an Eminem fan, but I'll respect him for this. 1999, Eminem brings out a track that had the Soul Calibur soundtrack in the background. If any of you guys remember that, and that was the talk of the town. Yeah. And it was like, was it Eminem's track? No, it was Soul Calibur. It's a video game song on there. It's those things that if we can just get more of that into it, where it's not just, look, fuck it. Pokemon and Sonic the Hedgehog were like the two biggest movies a couple years ago. There's a video game culture that's already there. Sell esports through that in a way that most people understand and make it fucking cool. And, offline TV and those kids on YouTube, they're doing a great job to like dabble in esports here and there, but then they're doing Among Us and all these other things. Again, that's how you cast that wide net. So just sometimes you're going to pull one person in out of 20. Sometimes you might pull in 5. But the more you do it with different things, instead of saying esports, it's look, listen to this new song or check out that new movie. It validates the video game world. And then now it's cool to play video games socially. It's cool to talk about video games with your friends versus what it's been for the past 20 years. It's like, okay, well, I buy Madden every year and Call of Duty every year. And that's the conversation.
Yeah, I think that's really well said. I think that's what I'd like to see happen. I think I'm seeing it happen a little bit more and more in pop culture. So I definitely agree with that. I just feel like when I look at traditional sports, because if I was to talk about what I think of the entire culture, right? Like we have a name, we call it Cage, right? Cosplay, anime, gaming, esports.
Stop with that.
Permeating everything, right? Like that's permeating. It's permeating. We know that. I know that to be true. But the problem is the E, right? The E, Cage. It's esports. That part needs to have competition. Do you know what Michael Jordan's value to the NBA was? Impeccable, as Tamika said, right? Was it because he was really cool and funny? Was it because he was handsome? Or was it because when the high stakes drama moment came, he gave you something to either hate, you're a Knicks fan, Chris, sorry, or love? Esports doesn't deliver that. Like they're not.
He became a household name,
and it's not enough high leverage pressure moments built up because
regular people can't differentiate what makes a great esports player to what makes a great basketball player, because none of us in this room can dunk windmill style like Michael Jordan did or jump from the free throw line. That was amazing. What is the greatest esports play you can show? And I know your answer, Sebastian, because it's going to be Evo Moment 37. Right. We use it all the time. And I will tell you this. I was able to raise $1.5 million to make my first video game nightclub, insert coins, by showing Evo 37. For the past 5 years, trying to sell esports that's not that clip, crickets. Because like, what am I looking at?
Well, they don't even focus on stuff like that anymore. Even with
and now that's the crux. I was going on about this last week, and here we are this week. That is the problem. Exactly, Red. Now I got Red back this week. That's what I see is the problem. Like
it don't go back to what it is.
You can have
gaming.
Yes.
It's video games.
Yes. Like we can have all the cosplayers. We can talk about the characters like the anime. I remember the song Hellbound by D12 and Eminem.
That's it. Yeah, that's it.
I remember we had conversations, but we was also going to Evo East trying to compete to be the best. That was a big thing. It matters. And like when you talk about sports fans, how do you categorize or segment that audience? Commonly, whether it's football, basketball, soccer, whatever have you, some people call soccer football, no disrespect. You know what I'm saying? It's like the moment. Yeah, the moment.
Because I mean, you mentioned Sonic Fox, right? And this is something that I've seen, and just like how you mentioned Nicole, like with Evil Geniuses, and I see this all the time with esports organizations. Y'all have pivotal esport players, but y'all don't celebrate them or show their valuable moments. And someone like Sonic Fox alone has so many highlights and clips, it can engulf anything like for an entire year. Yet he's not showcased and put out there at all. I was surprised they came out with a plushie of Sonic Fox, like with that alone. But things like that, along with culture, will make somebody invested. Just like how we keep talking about traditional sports. People got to see their like, let's say, they neighborhood athlete and got to see them play in high school, and then they made it to college, and then they made it to the big leagues. And that's what made a lot of people made that a home type of scenario to watch, just because they seen somebody familiar with them go all the way to the big leagues and something that was bigger than they can ever imagine to be a part of, but they was able to sit back and be a fan. With gaming, there's so many people playing video games right now. There's so many children, of course, always been interested. We grew up on video games, but now kids are now wanting to understand, how do I make money off of this?
Bang.
When we was little,
There it is.
We didn't ask that question when we were young. Now we have this generation right here that's actually asking, well, how do I make money off of this?
And what I'm saying,
But there's no lands in regional areas for these kids to grow some type of presence or to own their skills, to even know what the hell they want to play, unless they just seen some Fortnite shit on Twitch and they thought that, oh, if I play Fortnite, then I can make it big like this dude Booga Big. I pronounce his name all the time wrong, so no shade. But that was a one-off because I don't hear nothing about him anymore.
Right.
So there's a kid, Tens, that's playing Valorant right now. That let's use an example right now, where this kid is light years beyond the competition in Valorant. I mean, he's just absolutely destroying the competition. And time again, when I show his clips, people don't understand what I'm showing. And I think that's really another challenge that we have. When you watch a fighting game, it's 2 life bars go down. You don't have to give too much of a narrative of all the rules. It's just, I see it. And that's why I was really pushing more, again, with we need more video games being understood by people before we can start really showing what makes this thing great. Or we have to start doing better narratives, which is something, again, like you guys have all said, isn't happening. I mean, I always go back to that. It was Arslan Ash, that cat from Pakistan.
Yep.
Like, the kid was, who's that guy? Came out of nowhere, big story, made ESPN. Why? Because it was an amazing story.
Right.
We don't have that story with Call of Duty because everyone can play Call of Duty. What are you really showing me? You know what I'm saying? Right. So it's like we have a lot of challenges.
And my thing is that's not I'm not a shooting game player. It's not my job to figure out for Activision or whatever communities, third-party communities. And by the way, the publishers have done nothing to help because they licensed up all their games and stopped third-party communities who would be able to figure this out. What's the hottest part of Overwatch? I don't know. I watched it. Y'all wasn't showing it because I turned the channel. If you find out, I know that when I watched my girl T play it, like I watched her play Diva, and I knew, and by watching her and hearing her lingo and understanding the game, I got what it was when they were playing Capture the Flag, so it captivated me. The league did not do that for me, right? That's a problem. Like, it doesn't matter if I know about football or not. If I see a big catch, I'm like, oh, wow, and everybody's excited around it, it's like, oh, damn, this is a big deal. That doesn't happen enough across the board. Fighting games provide it easily because of the context, right? Fighting games provide it very easily. But the other games, it's a shame. League of Legends has 100 million monthly players. Who in this Zoom chat right now, and in fact, if you're watching across the world, has sat through a full League of Legends match? And then when you answer that question, tell me when you did it. Because the Worlds are next
It's like
month.
baseball. To me, it's like watching baseball. I can't.
See what I mean? The Worlds are next month. These matches are happening, right? I follow the stats, but who has sat down and watched it? And that's not on us. That's on Riot. That's on the companies trying to build. And by the way, Riot has set the standard for building a league, right? They've set the standard for building and maintaining a league, but that's where the standard's at. The biggest one, no one wants to watch it. But there's obviously a product because there's 100 million players. It's the same way when you asked about 2K. You don't have to want to watch digital people do what LeBron does. I totally get it. It's a different product. However, when you're selling 19 million of anything, every 365 days, they sell 19 million copies. When you're selling 19 million of anything in the world, building an audience on it shouldn't be that hard. The problem is that it's becoming more cool to put Bronny James on the cover. It's becoming more cool to be a streamer than it is to be a competitive player. So what the NBA and all these other sports have are moments. And esports can't find its moments. Like, dope esports plays ain't happening right now while we're on here. And that's what the problem with the culture is. There's no appreciation for the E. Cosplay, anime, and gaming, doing great. Better than ever. I just saw a picture of Megan Thee Stallion. I was like, damn. That was sick.
This was
Like,
speaking about. I was
all that
just
is-
speaking about Megan Thee
all that is
Stallion
there.
in Mortal Kombat.
Yep,
Like,
and Cardi B
but
talking about
but
Roblox.
that was a one-off. You know what I'm saying? Like the whole
Right.
situation with Megan Thee Stallion was a one-off situation. It was great because we see Megan Thee Stallion. She loves talking about how much she loves about anime and fighting games, and even want to learn more about fighting games. But they took that as an opportunity for just an aha moment instead of something to run with for it to be cultural, like a cultural moment.
And
Like
it-
to
it-
have
it-
something all the time.
hello,
It was just
listen,
a one-off.
We're big friend. I've met Ed Boon 2-3 times in my life, right? I got a funny story. I hailed Ed Boon down in the cab, and he probably remembers this. The first time I remember was at E3, and it was going to the PS4 keynote, and he was hailing down a cab. And CJ from Council King was like, "Look, that's Ed Boon." And I was like, "No, it's not." And it was. So I ran across the street. Didn't even use the crosswalk. Just ran across the street. And I was like, "Yo, Ed Boon, Ed Boon." And he was like, "What's up? What's up?" I said, "I have to go. It's an emergency or whatever." Probably gets fans running up on him all the time. So I ran up, and he was like, I was like, "Yeah, man, the uppercuts in Injustice suck. I really like Mortal Kombat better." And then he goes,
Okay.
He goes, "All right, so play Mortal Kombat." And he got the cab. Because I
Nice.
told him I like the uppercuts in Mortal Kombat better than Injustice. And he was like, "So play Mortal Kombat." And Justice just came out, by the way. So he pretty much let me know he's thinking of bigger things. And I think if you're thinking of bigger things, listen to Red. You missed that moment. Like, that could have been a moment to tie into the culture to make the competitive scene bigger. Because Chris said it earlier, 5 million copies, but DreamHack Montreal or Vancouver, DreamHack Vancouver, the year Mortal Kombat came out in 2019, had 60 entrants. 5 million copies, the #1 game in the country, 60 entrants.
But again,
entrants. Somebody who's doing
this
it right in the fighting game community, by the way, is Alex Jabali, right? Like, we see.
Yeah, sure.
We see he's building out these characters. You mentioned the WWE style, his connections with the AWE wrestlers, incredible. But also, he really celebrates the top 8. He really celebrates the culture of competition, which then gets
appreciation.
people who don't understand to go, "Damn, these two must be really good. They're going to a ring. Damn, these two must be really good. Like, that, these wrestlers are like supporting them and carrying them out. Damn, these things bring the celebratory culture that will bring fans of other things to this because they're all searching for that same commonality. The moment.
Then it won't be so hard to explain it anymore.
I don't know too much about soccer, right? But anytime I go by and the score is the same and the clock stopped counting because it's 90 minutes, and it's like, yo, the game could be over at any time. I'm like, I get nervous. I turn the TV on, oh, man. Like, damn, they got a few seconds left to get something done. I don't even care about soccer that much, but it draws me in because I know sports and I know the moment. So I'm saying to all you esports people, and I see Danny Martin left a really great comment that I think is a great solution. Like, if professionals, Danny says, if LinkedIn is a place where business professionals start to learn and build partnerships in esports, why don't we see esports competitive content on LinkedIn as we see on Twitter or Twitch? Why would we be looked down on if we started utilizing LinkedIn to push the competitive narrative as content? Danny, no, we wouldn't, because I constantly put my matches up and people's matches up and things like that. I think it's very important to show the context of what you can learn in competition. I mean, that's what makes that moment really exist, right? It's like every year, is LeBron as good as he is? Is LeBron not as good as he is? Talk, and then eventually we get to just a few days in May or June where like all that conversation really matters. Games aren't doing that right now. Games are making it more popular to be Nick Merckx. Which shouts to Nick Merckx. You getting signed to Under Armour. That's dope. I'm not mad. That's cool. But overall, the narrative, the real, who's going to be the next Kobe in video games? Is it the guy from Valorant Chris just mentioned? We don't know. Because when's the last time you watched a Valorant match? So take a step back and think about genres. Take a step back and think about genres. Different people, different genres, different games, and like really start. I think it's on the responsibility of the publishers to know your audience. You know the FGC, Chris? That's not the same as the Call of Duty players. That's not the same. They're not the same. They don't even hang out in the same places. You know that?
No, I know that as a fact, which is why, again,
same places. So not serving these audiences is just like the strangest thing. Making esports one thing is just like the strangest.
It's what got us the money, right? And this is where I'm going to just really get on my soapbox for a second.
It's a quantitative thing to
right.
put on it.
Right.
And I mean, this is why I laugh at all this, because there was a point about, I don't know, a year ago where suddenly chess was an esport. And I was like, all right, here comes that slippery slope. Like, this is really what we're doing. You guys that thirsty for some numbers? Yes, they were. They were trying to find a way to make those Twitch numbers look sexy. Fuck it, we're doing chess. You know, I mean, they could have taken poker next, because poker gets played online too, and it's a game. But what I really want to get into is that, you know, when I look at your passion, I know where it comes from, because you've been in it for so long, right? And I've been in this for a long time. And the one thing that I always had to put into everyone else's head is we need some fucking perspective, right? Because Call of Duty is 50 million people playing a month. Call of Duty League is getting, if they're lucky, 50,000. That's 0.001% of the game players who are actually watching that. And every time I hear about esports numbers this and esports viewership that, that's global, right? Like locally, the Major League Baseball Sunday night game is getting almost 2 million people watching. And that's just in the States. So, you know, there's a lot of work that we have to do. And, you know, I really want to talk about solutions and ways to do this is, you know, I do tip my hat to the guys who are opening up LAN centers again. But the ones I want to see more of is things that aren't fucking LAN centers, because there's nothing sexy about going to a room with a bunch of computers. How are we making this more approachable? Again and again and again, I'm going to bring that up, is events, right? Do events where there's some gaming and there's some music and there's a foodie culture thing. Find ways to just cast that bigger net. Because again, all we're going to do is talk about our, you know, back in high school, I threw this touchdown that won me my game. No one gives a fuck. Like, they don't care. Why does it affect them? And so I really want to challenge everyone to, like, and Marcus, this is me kind of leading the witness right now. But when we first started talking, I don't know how much I'm allowed to talk about this, but when you told me your idea with blockchain, and blockchain is another example of this stuff. I don't understand crypto. I'm glad people are making money off of it, but I turn that shit right off when I hear some guy go, oh yeah, fuck fiat, da 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 da. Great, now you've alienated me. Thanks so much. You know what? Fuck you. I hope you don't succeed. But what you did with your product, where you said you're going to do something that was going to give back to the community and legitimately give back to the community and help kids grow. We talk about STEM. We talk about all these ways that esports is going to make you a better this, that, and the third. Maybe it doesn't. But, you know, we got to sell it however we got to sell it. But until we can make esports something that actually does give back more to our local communities, to show that we can do something to help people and not just the competitive side, because at the end of the day, if I don't care about how competitive you are in a video game, I don't care. Because I will just play my video game. Ah, shit, I lost. And I don't do this. But we could talk about Dark Souls, right? Oh, games is too hard. I don't want to play that. That's too hard. That makes me crazy. Sebastian's already going like this. He's itching because he doesn't want to hear that. He wants the competition. But there's a lot of people out there that don't. And so for us to keep saying that and try to say this is why it's so important, I think we're missing a huge audience because we're taking ourselves a little bit too seriously. I'll ask one last question and I'll shut the fuck up. But here's my question to you. Did you really get into video games because you like sports? Or did you get into video games because you didn't like sports?
Got in the video game
because I just love.
And now we're making it sports. But I'm saying, right? You know what I mean? Like, this is our escape. Like, and now we're making it sports. We're making it organized. It's like, yo, I didn't get into this to do all this. No, it just let's get down with my friends. Have a good time.
Like I said, I think that you're making great points. Like, I definitely feel like it, but I don't think we're living in a world where I'm not seeing. Again, I just keep using CAGE as the acronym. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I don't see the cosplay, anime, gaming. I see it cool now. When I liked Naruto, it wasn't cool to like Naruto. It's cool to like Naruto now.
Oh man, let me tell you.
It's cool to like Naruto now. It's cool to like, you know what I'm saying, like
Dragon Ball.
Reference characters
cool, like Dragon Ball
and things like that. Now I see that.
I bought the VHS tapes, yo.
But when I came up till today, I don't see esports taking that big of steps forward. I see the other three. I see cosplay, anime, and gaming advancing forward. I do not see it for esports. I don't see it. I don't see
because the people who play, for example, people who play Call of Duty don't watch Call of Duty League.
Right.
They just love playing Call of Duty.
Right.
They never made a bridge between if you play Call of Duty, you have some type of way to even get into the Call of Duty League. It's just set apart. There's nothing that's connecting to make a bridge culturally on wanting to even be a part of it. Because that's the whole thing. It's like, oh, if you play Call of Duty, you're probably going to want to watch Call of Duty League. No, I don't know. Or if you play Overwatch, which they was trying to build because people really the fan stuff started because of the characters of the games. Then they was like, okay, I got an esports team in my own local city. Maybe I can be a part of this, and this is probably something that's worth looking at. It is kind of exciting to watch, but I don't see that same thing the way it is like in Asia with League of Legends and even League of Legends, what Riot is doing. They're doing something culturally with it that makes you want to be a part of League of Legends. That they have, and they're trying to do it even more. That's why they had the whole big concert with Kiki singing and shit. Like, they're trying to make that something. Well, Call of Duty League, for example, it is stiff as hell. And that's not how people got interested into Call of Duty from other industries. Right. When people started, when there was a whole bunch of content creators making all these nuke videos and montages and no scopes, 360s and shit on YouTube. And that's when Modern Warfare 2 started popping off like crazy and started having their game sell more than a damn box office movie. Right. That's when people got interested. Not because there was a league back then. It was all based off of just things we normally would do with the damn game and make content off of it. And then people started to learn and wanted to play Call of Duty. The young kids wanted to play. Young kids nowadays don't want to play Call of Duty. They want to play something else, which is Fortnite, Roblox, Minecraft, and Valorant now.
And those games are the second generation. They're not even trying to make their esports stuff like matter. They Fortnite be making major changes, like taking weapons out the day before the tournament. they like, oh, it's
because it's not, it's not even about that anymore.
Sorry. Sorry. Oh, you like the shotgun? That shit going. We got this plunger. You better make.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just it's backwards thinking.
It's this, overall. And to come back to the cage conversation, right? With your cosplay, anime, gaming, esports. Okay, I can personally invest into those things and get something out of it, and I can also sell those things to other people. How do I sell cosplay? You just said Megan Thee Stallion. Yeah, you know what? That's going to sell. Sex sells. I'm going to look at that. Okay, that's interesting to me now. Cool. People like costumes. I get that. Anime. Now it's just, again, it's a cultural shift. It's a generational play. I like to use the term generational tsunami a lot, and I stole that from the CEO of Rivalry, GG. So respect to that man. I'll never say it was my own words, but when he said we are waiting for this generational tsunami, he's dead on. Again, we can sit here and say that this is so exciting to watch, and maybe it isn't, but it's growing. Anime. It's where it is today. There's more anime on Netflix than regular Cartoon Network shit. It's a real thing. It's wild. I was watching a volleyball anime with my son this past week, and I'm like, wow, this is really dope. Why am I watching this? And it's just
haiku.
Yeah, there you go. See, how about that? And then when we get back to esports again, what I keep thinking about is what are we giving the audience to invest into to make it more interesting to them? And I was really fascinated when Twitch came up with that like some kind of assumptions or something where you can like literally bet on the games, and that was interesting, right? We do see betting potentially.
Mm-hmm.
Right, thank you. That extra piece makes things interesting. We need more of that to make people say, "Oh, wow, yeah, I want to see," because now I'm invested into it, right? I'm not saying betting totally because that gets a little muddy right now because of how young the market is. But when I think about, do you know when the next big game is? Do you know what the schedules really are? Where do you find that information? There's still a lot that we haven't put together as a foundation into esports for it to work the way we all want it to work right now. Like, I do like the guys at juke.gg. Like, they got a nice little idea going, but again, they're still in startup phase. But until we have more access and deliver more access than just this shit's on Twitch and Twitter, we're just talking to ourselves again, right? So, for the investment into esports being more interesting, we need the personality, we need the culture, and we need something to get people excited while they're watching it. And I do think, in terms of how do I make money in esports, what everyone keeps missing out on, it's not the orgs. Thanks for taking the hit on the orgs and make you lose your money that way, but you're helping build the system. Great. But everyone that's watching can come up with a new ancillary business idea to help esports grow. And I think that's something that we keep missing out because all we want to do is just see it, what it's supposed to be, because how much money's in there. But there are ways to make esports more interesting outside of the esports audience. It's just how you do it.
Yes.
This is where I pitch my reset thing where, insert coins. When I had this in Las Vegas from 2010 to 2015, I was doing the liquor deals. I was doing the esports events. I was doing all this stuff to push esports. Whenever I did an esports event, my numbers dropped. When I did a Tecmo Bowl tournament and had the ESPN radio guys coming through, I had damn near 200 people come through the doors. Why? Because it was a little more accessible. I do a Golden Tee event, got a lot more people coming in for that than Tiger Woods. You know what I'm saying? So, like, again, it's just knowing how to sell this thing to a large market and then bring it to where we want it to be. But it has to be done with some more tact. It has to be done with a little more sexiness. There's no sexy in esports. There's sex in all the sports. Why did UFC get so big? Because we want to see people punch each other in the face? Yeah. But every time I go to a UFC event in Las Vegas, let me tell you, all the girls that are there, there's a lot of them. They're enjoying the show too. So, again, how are we creating a product to really be sexy, be entertaining? And Sebastian, you're 100%. I don't have to be a superstar and do all these other things. But I'll tell you, maybe back in the day you did, right? Because, when basketball really started to blow up, it was Magic Johnson. And it was this whole new way of enjoying basketball. We haven't come up with that whole new way to make this interesting. We're trying the same thing over and over again. And that's painful.
I'd agree with that. Derek, Marcus, thoughts? I've expressed myself pretty well. And Chris, that was a really great point you made. And of course, Red, thank you. But I haven't heard from Marcus on this. I know you're kind of like esports from an inclusion standpoint, especially thinking about Magdalena. So what do you think about,
he hits the nail on the head about the inclusion, making it more accessible, and then the accessibility is how you get the mass market appeal. And I also agree with the local community focus. And what you said at the beginning of the conversation goes back to something we were talking about a few weeks ago, that esports wants to grow, but it doesn't want to grow up. I think, Derek makes some great points about not wanting to create like barriers to entry through regulation. But if you look at, the cannabis industry or the crypto industry, it was the Wild West, right? And in some cases, literally illegal. And depending on which state you're in, cannabis is still illegal. And then when regulation came in, then those two industries respectively exploded, right? When the SEC came in, the IRS came in and said, hey, we're going to make crypto a registered security. Like, it's a digital asset. We recognize it now. Crypto is 12 years old, but you haven't seen the growth you've seen in the ecosystem like you have in the last 2 years that you had to start filing it on your taxes, right? You couldn't just go raise $1 billion or however many $1 million in an ICO. And you're starting to see, and Chris can speak to this more than I can because I'm not working in the space, but the cannabis industry is starting to get regulated, and you start to see what used to be illegal. Unfortunately, you still got a lot of brothers and sisters and a lot of different people, but most in jail because of it, right? But now it's no longer weed. Now it's the cannabis industry, and it's exploding.
Yeah.
So I think we need some degree of regulation so that we can get where we need to go so that it can be more accessible. There are more, I don't want to call it guardrails, but the infrastructure that we need is missing. And once it starts to get more regulated, we'll start to see that infrastructure, and then we'll have the growth.
And I think it's when you give opportunity to people, again, like, what is in it for me with them, right? What's in it for me with cannabis, and we've been working on this it's over 4 years now. When we put the social equity play into the cannabis business deal and this bill that was passed about 2 or 3 weeks ago, we made sure that you can't just be a token, minority person of color, something that or female, and then really get all your money from some rich white guy somewhere. That's not going to work, right? Like this, it's not going to work. We want to make this legit, and we want to make it where it's yours. You're not getting a license by luck of the draw in a lottery, and then you could sell it in 2 weeks and get it for like 4 times the price, right? I think what's important is when we do something, in the cannabis space especially, it's not just creating the business, it's doing things for your community. It's, expunging those records. It's going out there and educating. I bring up my kid a lot. 11 years old, I got a letter in the mail from him from school about my kids talking about cannabis in school. That's a problem. Like, no, it's not. And I had to talk to the principal about this. Education. Something else we haven't talked about yet in esports is education. We don't do enough of that. And again, in terms of giving back to the community, when we see our money and the tax of money go towards schools, go towards people who have been impacted by the drug war, and officially getting it done from a government regulated space, to Derek's point, again, like, they're not growing up. Weed's growing up way faster than esports. And I'll say this right now, in Nevada, cannabis sales was $686 million last year. We are trending to be $1 billion this year. How many times do you hear that esports is $1 billion global industry? That shit's just in my home state. So one of the things I really want to do with Reset, which we will do by middle of 2022, is everyone loves cannabis. Fantastic. Enjoy some weed. Let's play some indie games. Hey, person who doesn't play video games that much, let's try this really simple, fun game mechanic. Oh, did you really enjoy that? Great. Let's try this indie game and cultivate an experience. Smoke some weed, have some good food, play video games outside of your world. Okay, now that I have you exploring, check out esports. And if we start doing that kind of play, then I think you're really presenting, the esports industry very interestingly. But again, with the cannabis side of things, in terms of how do we do something for our communities, esports isn't doing enough of that yet. And I think we can do that the same way we were really working in the cannabis industry to make sure that people impacted by the war on drugs, let's get that shit over with.
Well, I have a question. Since you're in the industry, what would you say is the holdup from just implementing that solution?
I mean, look, everything is politics, dude. I mean, it's at the end of the day, there's a lot of education that has to happen to people who aren't ready to listen. I always like to make this point about, I know what I know. I don't know what you know. And I'm going to try my best to make you understand me. And sometimes the message just isn't received, right? And there are people, I mean, look, there's a lot of things I can go into that becomes a very political minefield. But the reality is, as long as we keep pushing the message, as long as more people keep speaking up, when I go to my kid's soccer game and if I see some soccer mom literally smoking a vape pen and I'm like, that's weed. She's like, yeah, it is. Why are you hiding it? It's just, there has to be more of understanding that this is something that everyone's doing. And I do think we've made some significant impact in Nevada because we did get, the approval from the governor and multiple, assemblymen and women, Congress people. There's a lot of work that had to be done. And like I said, this took 4 years, bro. I started this action in 2016, and we only got this bill passed in 2 months ago. So it's just more education, more people speaking their experience and showing, hey, I'm more than a criminal. I'm a person. Right. And we have to do a lot of just putting a human side to, which is another esports problem. We have to put more of a human side to, the war on drugs per se. But at the end of the day, dude, like I said, we can go really into a deep, dark abyss of all the things wrong with our justice system. And I got the time for it, but I don't know if our guests do. And we're supposed to talk about esports. But, the reality is, no, we just have to talk more. We have to talk more in a positive light. We have to talk more about the benefits of the drug cannabis as a health benefit per se, and just show that, there are people who really need to get yanked out of jail and getting those records expunged. And we're working our ass off to do it. But it's just hard when you got a lot of, let's just say, old fashioned thinkers still in very significant positions of power, but that'll change. Generational, tsunamis again.
Right. I mean, it's cannabis is one of those things that I just feel like, not everybody wants to involve themselves with it, and so they feel like when you cross that line of bringing it to where everybody can get involved, it changes the world, right? And the change is what's scary, because it's clear now it's not harmful. It's clear now that there are not only not harmful benefits, so it's like ridiculous to even discuss that at this point. I think it's just people who don't partake in it for whatever their reasons are. It's the fear of how much it'll change. Because look what is changing the states. There's been nothing like cannabis changing state to state, like the income it's bringing to these states, And
the money's ridiculous.
More and more are going to it every single year. Now at this point, right? Like 3 consecutive years, 4 or 5 states per year are doing it. So we're on our way. And I think that...
And we're on our way to doing it right, because I'm sorry to interrupt, but I always have to make this point. Like, we're talking to people in New York and New Jersey right now. And when I tell you, I'm talking to cats who have been in the game for 25 years. And I'm like, you never got caught. You are smart. Let's make sure you get your shot to do this legally, because you did it that well, when it wasn't. So, again, I do think it's about understanding how not to judge people for all the things, you know what I'm saying? And then, give these people a shot to do what they deserve, because they've been doing it right. Why not give them that opportunity? And I think New York and New Jersey will start doing that as well.
Yeah. So
we're on the beginning of trying to make it mainstream. How many years following that achievement will the racial stigma behind smoking change and reset? Because currently, like, you could go to somewhere like Colorado, right, and you can walk past a couple of white dudes sitting inside their Jeep, and it smells like weed. And the perception of that is a different perception if you change that to a bunch of black dudes sitting in the car and you walk by and smell weed. Like, there's a associated stigma to it, even though the actual act is now considered recreational. How far behind are we on changing that narrative as well?
So that's a really great question, because one of the things that we used to always argue about when we were sitting in front of all these politicians is smoking weed has been happening since Woodstock, and Woodstock, it was okay. I hope all of you guys saw Summer of Soul. That was an amazing documentary. Make sure you see it. But like, at the end of the day, I do think what you're going to see is venues are going to open up where you're going to see Black culture embraced in a way that's authentic. You're going to see, like, and this is me kind of preaching my product that we'll have, where it's, you go to a venue where we're showing our, you know, appreciation for the music, the artwork, everything that's cannabis. And when you really educate people to see just how much the African American communities were a part of the cannabis industry, but like the things that came out of it in a positive light, that's when you're going to start making people see, hey, there's more to this than that criminal element, right? When we talk about, and again, this is an esports show, but we're all adults. When we start talking about the adoption of critical race theory and really start making the point, like, these things are happening, and you talk about that in a social setting with a bunch of people smoking a joint, that's how you're building a narrative. That's how you're building social links. That's how you're building a community. And that's when you're going to start seeing some, you know, and I have this really deep in my pocket right now in terms of like strategies. But when I have, you know, this gay Black man and this father who I personally know, and they're going to come to Reset, and they're going to smoke a joint. I'm going to have some really good 70s music going on, and I have them on Twitch streams, and we're making content of these people as they're people having a good time. I'm now selling that image to a wider audience to show cannabis is approachable. This is more than just a, you know, this isn't a criminal thing. It just isn't. It's just no different than buying a good glass of wine or having a beer, what have you. But it's about how you sell that image. And I think it's going to happen sooner than you think, because it's more than just Cypress Hill and Snoop Dogg saying, I like weed. You know, it's, you know, somebody else who I can't name right now. That's just some new kid who's like in the, like, that's even, you know, too cool for me right now. That's showing weed in a really positive light and calling out, here's all the bullshit that happened before. Let's get rid of that. I think it's just messaging. 5 years. I'm giving it 5 years.
5 years. Okay. Well, everybody, what you guys got going on for the week? Tell everybody where they can find you, where they need to get you. Chris, let us know how they can get in touch with you. Reset. What you got going on?
Look, at the end of the day, just find me on Twitter and Instagram at Chris of Coins, ChrisOfCoins. At the end of the day, we are shooting to see Reset as a video game focused cannabis venue in Las Vegas. We're going to provide high-end food and drink, lots of entertainment, lots of anime now because that's cool. But, you know, it's just really taking a lot of the elements that esports and gaming has done to get the word out and do it in a brick and mortar setting. And, you know, again, Reset's doing a lot of cool shit, but we want to do it by working with our local communities, working very close with Las Vegas partners, and just showcasing our culture in a positive light, whether it's weed, or whether it's gaming, or whether it's esports. Now, maybe not so much the cosplay, because this is not my thing.
So we're gonna get those special invites when it opens.
Oh, I got you. You guys don't even know. Yeah, I'll show you some stuff later.
Go look it out, baby. Red, what you got going on?
Man, just catching up with gaming. Like, you know, I've been kind of MIA, but just catching up on some games, doing some streams, and then refacing my website, Geek Game Tight. So that's what I got going on.
Yeah, that FaceTime. I think I need one too, not gonna lie. Marcus, how about you?
Well, I felt all of his like stretch just now.
Wow.
I don't know, man.
You all right, brother? You all right?
I'll get back to you next week.
For real. I feel that, though. I feel you. But you know what? You got it going. We all know you're a legend. I don't know anybody in this room right now and anybody watching across. It's like 15, 20 of y'all watching. The legend Marcus. So sometimes even the legends gotta take a breath and just go. Whew, but he gonna be all right. And we
Thanks.
Next week. I got you.
How about you, D?
Same old. Good fight. I should have some news at the end of this week. I think I might. I don't know.
Okay.
That's one thing about esports, man. People be gun ho 1 minute, next minute they done talk to their nephew and it's done changed up. You know what I mean? So we'll see though.
Hold on. What about that shirt you got on though? What about the shirt?
Oh, free the dope boys. You already understand. Like you got our dope boys locked up behind. Now I can go in like that could be a whole show
shirt?
one day on what that.
We're talking about that. We're talking about that.
Is that your shirt, Derek?
Yes, that is my shirt.
Okay, I'm gonna need one of those shirts.
So if we can do some collabs, Chris, let me know.
Oh no, 100%.
Okay.
I'll tell you about this event we should do with the Chamber of Cannabis when we go offline.
Okay.
Like it.
Yo.
Nice.
Well, I'm glad to see all my people's doing their thing. Back again with an Eat for Life training tomorrow. We're gonna do Canva, so we're gonna learn a little bit more about Canva and the things you can do to really make money, right? Like I teach one point on how you make money with stuff because I think that's important, but also the overall edge it can give you as an entrepreneur and just like seeing different things from different perspectives when you use a program like Canva. I'm fond of it, and that's what we got going on this week. So, it's the Eat for Life podcast. We've been back at you. We're back again. Thank you, Chris, for coming through. We sure appreciate you.
Yes.
Thank you for coming through,
Thank
showing
you.
love, blessing us with that reset energy. I think I got to make a trip to Vegas soon, so I definitely going to be making a stop over there with you. Me and T going to come check you out. And the rest of y'all, man, keep grinding. I'm proud of some of y'all. See Ricky, Marcus, Danny, Aziza, Alex, a lot of people showing love, doing their thing.
Danny Martin.
These are all the people who are helping esports reset and make that
Yep.
2.0 esports 2.0 splash. You know what I'm talking about? So proud of you guys. Stay working hard. And everybody here, of course, keep doing y'all thing. And we'll see you on the next one.